All right, guys, it is 7 o'clock. It is Tuesday night. It's time for another episode of our weekly conversations with Commodores. And I've got the general manager with us tonight. I've got Barton Simmons, the man who has put the roster together and probably has the most difficult job, but I bet enjoys his job as much as anybody at Magoogan. Barton, thank you for joining us tonight. How's your evening going?
Bernard, I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here and appreciate you inviting me. I've been looking forward to this.
As have I and so many others. We got Rod Keats in the house. Rod, I have got to get you on this show, and I don't want no more taking no for an answer from you, former teammate. Barton, we know a lot of your story. MBA with Clark Lea, Yale, by the way, the single greatest defensive back from NBA to ever play at Yale. I think I said that right. And if there's somebody out there who is a greater than Barton, let him come forward and take that title.
Take any one of those qualifiers away and I'm in trouble, but I'll have to live with the title otherwise.
Let's talk about titles. You're officially, I think, the general manager, director of personnel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do you do for the football program? Can you boil it down in like under 30 minutes?
I think I can do it. I can do it better than that. I think I can probably give you about a sentence or two. I think ultimately, like, bottom line, distilled down to its core, I'm here to safeguard the roster and build the roster and safeguard the roster. And that means obviously a lot of things. And I've got an incredible team that I work with, and that we've been granted the resources to have from the administration, which is, I don't know that that's necessarily true in previous staffs. And so I got a great group of people I work with, and ultimately what I do with that crew is, and with obviously the coordination of the coaching staff, is identify, evaluate, recruit. There's an element of like roster management, obviously transfer portal strategy, red shirt strategy, just sort of coaching staff collaboration in terms of our plan for our players. I sort of, there's an element of roster development that is sort of stimulated by me, and by my staff. So, I think at the end of the day, the goal and for my position is to just ensure that our roster is healthy, and our roster will continue to be healthy, and we're building a championship roster. And I think, my unique relationship with Coach Lea and Clark is kind of allows us to have the trust. I should say allows him to have the trust to just to attack it and take a little bit off his plate so that he can attack his job in an effective way. And so I don't know. I guess I went a little more than one or two sentences there, but
no. It's a fascinating position that didn't exist during my time, and probably didn't exist 10 years ago, or even maybe 5 years ago. All right, Barton, are you there?
I am. Oh, yeah. I never left. I thought I'd left. I was trying to get back in the meeting and I was still here.
You
So.
didn't leave. I got kicked out. Let me see if we're live. And by the way, we now have hit 3 straight home runs in this inning.
There you go. That'll break that midweek slump.
Yeah. Let's see. Somebody who's there, let me know if you see us, but we're going to keep talking. And before I got kicked out, Barton, my question was, the job that you signed on for in 21, is it the same job that you have in 23? Does it look the same? Is it constantly evolving, given that we're kind of in the wild, wild west right now in the NCAA?
Yeah, I think it's the same job as the one I took in 2021. I think the difference is I had no idea at that point what I was actually signing up for. And I think I've got a better grasp of it now. And I also think as our program advances, evolves, what have you, the needs of my position change a little bit as my department kind of grows and leadership within that department grow. My position changes a little bit. But it's a fascinating time to jump in, I think, to your point, because and I think it's in some ways a good time to jump in, with the changing landscape of college football. I'm no more experienced at this than anyone in a similar role, just because they've not experienced this either. And so it puts me a little bit on equal footing in some of the areas where, maybe inexperience might rear its head. But no, I love it. I mean, I love the strategy of it. I love I love the opportunities to find advantages and margins and edges. And, so I kind of welcome the change, because it offers us some opportunity to sniff out some advantages and maximize them. Because I think that's what I love about this position in this program is it's not like, we got the biggest fire hose in town to, we are competing with the biggest, baddest teams in college football, and we're building a roster to beat them. But we have to do it in a different way, in a strategic way. And I think that's my favorite part about my current position.
One of the things that I've noticed and I've said for the last several months, most notably over your shoulders behind you, all the construction and the plans and the momentum that's been building for a couple of years. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a weird view to be able to see all the way through right
I know,
there.
it's wild. Yeah.
If I'm a 8th or 9th, 10th, even 11th grade up and coming athlete, regardless of the sport, and Vanderbilt's on my radar, and I learn of all these plans and what's currently underway and what's coming, I would be very excited about Vanderbilt. And I assume that's got to be a selling point, if you will. And here's my question. When you have these prospective student athletes come onto campus, it probably doesn't take much to show them or to share with them. But how does that go over with the parents as well as the child?
Yeah. It's obviously it's great. I think the thing that I talk about a lot, I mean, look, I think one thing that we encounter here is, we have to confront some existing pessimism that Vanderbilt can win at the highest level, because frankly, if a player is coming here without the desire and expectation to win every game and to win the SEC, like we don't want them. At least we shouldn't want them. We need guys here that believe they're coming to Vanderbilt to win the SEC, to win every game, not to go 6-6, not to get a really good education and play a little football on the side. I mean, we need guys that want to win every game they play, because that's our vision. And so to do that, I think we have to face the very real history that Vanderbilt has had in sort of modern college football, which is that it's, success here has been spotty. There's been a couple of runs, but generally speaking, it's success here has been spotty. And so what we don't do is do a lot of time talking about, hey, let me show you how shiny these new facilities are going to be. Let me show you how big these new facilities are going to be. Let me show you what they look like. Let's dig on. I mean, trust me. I mean, that we show them pictures, and that's part of it, but that's not really the message. I think the important message to deliver from that is, this is why Vanderbilt right now is different from any other Vanderbilts that has ever existed. Meaning, right now there is a level of commitment from outside of this building, from across campus, from the community, and both in terms of the just being supportive of the program, but I think, what we can show them is, listen, this $300 million has been raised. That's a tangible evidence of commitment level. That's tangible evidence that this is not the Vanderbilt of the past. That's tangible evidence that the support from our administrators and from the chancellor is at a level that we've never had before. And so I think to be able to use that to illustrate why we are ushering in a new era of Vanderbilt football can be really powerful, and it's certainly something that we lean on and utilize as much as we can, and we lean on that message a good bit.
What also was powerful to me: 0 wins to 2 wins to 5 wins in a short period of time. And yes, putting W's on the scoreboard will get the momentum, but I think the momentum that's being built right now is very powerful. And yes, that pessimism that you referred to, that we all know has been there for years, you can't make somebody change their mind. They'll have to do it on their own. But if you don't get excited about what's going on right now, I don't know if some of those ever will. I hope they do. They can get on board or they can get left. But the Coaches Caravan that's going on right now, the one in Atlanta, was very well attended. I listened to Kevin Ingram's conversation with Coach Lee, and I know there's other ones coming up in Dallas, Chicago, and I'm forgetting Houston. Maybe I forget the fourth city.
Yep.
And just the number of alums, football alums, who've expressed who they're going to come to those different events, who probably have not attended many things in the past, just again, by their actions, is speaking volumes about those things. But here's one of the things that really is a very vivid memory to me, Barton, from last season. I don't know who took the photo, maybe one of the Vanderbilt sports staff or the Hustler, whomever. There's a fantastic photo where 8 defenders are making 1 tackle on a Kentucky running back. I'm sure you've seen this photo, but all eyes on the runner and the ball are right there in that screen. And I just think that from an athletics standpoint, you don't see that in the past very often, not in years. So that's what I wanted to throw to you, is talk about that athleticism that you're seeing from year to year. We're now into team 3.
Yeah.
What do you see? What's there?
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun question to answer. And I will, I do think like that photo you're mentioning is representative of another element, which takes time, which is identity. I think defensive identity. And if you were to, and Coach Howell's only been here for 1 year, and Coach Minner obviously was a really good coach in his own right and is doing good things up in Michigan. But Coach Howell's arrival ushered in this commitment to identity defensively that, I've never seen anything like it. And and that takes time. And we saw flashes of that last year, but every year, I mean, we have a growing commitment and I think connection to a really strong mentality of total effort, start, middle, to finish, the return, and the Vanderbilt football warrior, and just these elements of our program that are baked into everything we do. But defensively, like you can see it in a really sort of a tangible way in terms of the way they chase the football, the pursuits, the speed they play with. And I think you're going to continue to see that show up this fall in a way that I think is going to be really reflective of the culture we're trying to build. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that's starting to take hold. It's still a work in progress and it's not going to be perfect, but that is representative of a really disciplined approach to like unwavering commitment to that vision throughout practice and meetings and everything we do. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but speaking to the athleticism, I talk about this in recruiting too, because I think the more you can present tangible, objective data to prove a point, the better. And we tested our players the spring of 2021, and we have those numbers, those 40-yard dash times, and we weren't a fast team at that stage. We just weren't. Without going into the numbers specifically, we were not a fast team. Fast forward now to 2023, and this spring we look like a fast team. I mean, we're testing like a fast team. It is a dramatic turnaround. And again, doesn't mean we're going to be perfect in the fall, but I can tell you this, this roster is becoming a fast roster. And the catapult numbers, we wear catapult tracking devices, wearables on our players during practice and games during the season. And if you look at our numbers in the 2021 season, in terms of how many guys hit 19 miles per hour, how many guys hit 20, 21, 22, the difference between those numbers, both in practice, in games, season wide, the growth of speed during the season, all these things, it is wild to see the difference between 2021 and 2022. And my expectation is when you compare 2022 to 2023, we're going to see a similar level of growth as it relates to team speed and individual speed. And so that's real, that's happening. And obviously there's everybody wants fast teams. Everybody wants fast players. I think we've been really, obviously it's been a point of emphasis, certainly with what the roster we inherited. It's been a point of emphasis to not compromise on speed. And I think we're seeing those returns at this stage, at least the early stages of them.
Well, I know that's got to be a fun aspect of your job as well. But one thing that I'm sure is not a fun aspect, and I'm not asking or talking about particular players, but my question to you is those few players in comparison to other programs who we've had enter the transfer portal, how are you inside McGugin typically notified? Do the players actually have exit meetings with you? Do you find out on Twitter? What's the typical path that a player who wants out of the program and get into the portal? How do you deal with that?
So they can go directly to compliance and enter the portal. In most cases, they've had a meeting or two, whether that be with the head coach, position coaches, all the above, to sort of talk through where they're at. And, in some cases it's sort of a mutual parting, to wish someone the best to find better opportunity, more opportunity somewhere else. Sometimes it catches us a little bit by surprise. It's just, there's a variety of reasons that a transfer portal entrance may happen. And we're typically, we typically get a heads up. But at that point, once the decision is made, there's not a lot we can do. Right. I will say, I think on that note, the transfer portal, this sort of transfer portal NIL era and all that the confluence of those things presents challenges. It's at times, we're like walking around the building, man, what are we going to do? Like, what do we, like there's that's sort of like a coaching reflex is like, oh man, this is such a, the NCAA's got to do something about this. It's crazy. From my perspective, everyone in the country is dealing with this. Literally everyone in the country is dealing with this. Yeah. And if you look at just even just our roster attrition, this last 6 months, whatever it is, the 2 portal windows, and it is hitting us significantly less than anyone else in the country. And so while there will be some challenges that pop up from time to time based on the portal, I think because of the way we're building this program, because of our commitment to culture, to personal relationships, to connectivity within the building, because of the way we recruit and the message we recruit to and the type of people we're going to have in our building, I think all those things present a real opportunity for Vanderbilt football to thrive through this sort of volatile era in college football. And so, I remind myself of that, and I remind our coaches of that anytime, we get frustrated, because this is the truth now, Bernard. I mean, we are particularly in our conference. I mean, there are coaching staffs that are, I think that the majority of them, if not all of them, it's a nightmare for those guys. And it's really not that way here. It really just is not. And we have to safeguard that. We have to safeguard that culture, and we have to be committed to that. But again, I actually believe Vanderbilt is built, and Coach Lee's sort of vision for this program, I think, is built to thrive through the chaos of the sort of the modern transfer portal era.
Guys, I've got Barton Simmons, the general manager, the protector of the roster, with us this evening. And Barton, before we get to me asking you to expound on that culture inside McGugin, I want to tell you who we've got, because there's so many now. Gary Veach, Jim Cunningham, Jamie Bryant, Doug Bradley, Kenny Cole, OJ Fleming. Who else has rolled through here? There was, at one point, there was 18 of them. I'm sorry I didn't get to you guys beforehand, but I didn't want to interrupt Barton. I want you to share a little bit, to the extent that you can and you're willing to, talk about the development of culture inside McGugin within the football program.
Yeah, I think, I think that starts, first of all, it's very intentional. And listen, I make all these statements with the full knowledge that we haven't reached any destination. We're still evolving. We're still growing. We're still learning. We're still building. But I do believe we've established a really strong culture here. I think that starts with Coach Lee. That is him. That is really, that's why I'm here, is to allow him to really focus on things like that, and effort building that and creating that. And what he's done a really good job of is staying incredibly disciplined in the day-to-day message and not wavering off that. That's what's hard. And I think that's what's hard about being a developmental program. Anyone can say they're a developmental program, and anyone can say they're building culture, but what's hard is to go in every single day and not waver off that culture and make hires off that culture and establish that culture and that rhetoric within your support staff. And like all these things are things that really, we spend a lot of time, a lot of energy on. And through that, I think our team sees a consistent message. Like they don't find soft spaces within the program to hide from what our expectations are of them. And I think, what's really exciting and energizing is that, like, they're going to look for soft spaces because that's human nature, but they want to meet that resistance. They want to find those boundaries and they want to fall back in line, and they want to be part of something special, and they want to build something bigger than themselves. And so we've got a really good group of players here and really good human beings that love football and want to do something special. And we've got a head coach that is as laser focused as anybody I've ever seen in terms of just like devoting the energy towards safeguarding that. I mean, that's his job. He's to safeguard the program. I got my little section over here, which is the roster and the personnel. But the whole thing is him and safeguarding this program. And he's just done a really good job of shepherding that message through every corner of this building. And I think if you come in here, if anyone comes in here and visits, that's what they'll find is they'll find a real strong consistency of message and a total understanding of what we're trying to be and how we're trying to get there.
What they're also going to find is open doors.
Yeah.
And a big welcoming by Coach Lee and the staff. I was there a few weeks back and I met, well, first of all, Ben took me through the building and all of you guys were in a big recruiting meeting. And I don't know why he did it, but I was thankful to say hello to the entire coaching staff, including probably interns and students and the like. But the point being is that building is open to alums to come in there and experience what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
that's important to us. Yeah.
That's as important of a message, I think, off the field to alums that can be established. I really do.
Well, and even speaking from the place of, from my recruiting brain, what we do not want is to recruit players to this program, talk about the network and the power of a Vanderbilt degree and the power of the Vanderbilt network. And then when they get here, just leave that talking point to drift away in the winds. We want to engage that network to make sure that they feel that power. And that's the only way to do that is to build community, is to make sure these doors are open, to make sure that people feel connected. And again, we're not perfect there either, but we're gonna certainly continue to do everything we can to build that community so that when these guys finish up with us, when these players finish up, that they're going to want to reinvest in the same way they felt invested in. And I think that's a powerful cycle, and we're gonna continue to promote it.
It is, and it's a very, very important topic, timely topic. Barton, we've had on representatives from the Ingram Center for Student Athlete Success and about the programs that are being put into place. And I don't want to put you on the spot to the extent that you don't know specifically about what I'm going to ask, so you certainly can decline. But that has not always been the place in prior decades within the football program or the administration. There has not been that support for many who've gone through our program. Many have gone through our program and been finished with their eligibility, may or may not get the degree, and then they're left to their own devices of what's next.
Yeah.
We all know many of those state schools have had these programs in place for decades. I'm not comparing us to the state programs. I'm not trying to do that. What do you see from your perspective that maybe some of the stories of some of the kids who've come through, or maybe they're coming back and telling you or sharing their stories? Have you been privy to any of those stories or past players?
Just anecdotally here and there, I think, and obviously I don't know what was in place before and certainly didn't experience that. I'll give you one, just when you talk about this topic, one little anecdote comes to mind. We had a player off our first team, transferred out as a grad transfer, finished up his career somewhere else and reached out to someone on our staff and said, "Hey, can you help me? Can we all help me? Get connected with some resources in this career path he was pursuing." He said, the school I didn't realize how strong the resources were at Vanderbilt. The school I'm at currently is nothing like that. And obviously we were happy to help him. He left, in good standing, and that was, we were glad to be able to be a resource for him. But I don't think people realize the amount of resources that they have poured into them here sometimes until they go somewhere else. And certainly don't realize the amount of people rooting for him here in this building sometimes until they go somewhere else. And so there's obviously some places that do a really good job as well. And I don't want to sort of imply otherwise, but I do feel really good about the, how hard the people in this building and down the hall and academics and work to sort of make sure our players are successful. And I think we have some work to do still. I think we do a good job in terms of our players sort of beyond this place and getting opportunities in the workplace. I feel really good about where we're at there. And I still think like that could be the biggest, most powerful network in college football, and it's sort of the opportunities that arise for a Vanderbilt football player after his playing days are done, whenever that may be that after the, his college career or the NFL. I think one of our charges is to continue to bolster that. That takes time and a lot of effort. But that's sort of part of our goal. Part of our grand vision for this place is to really be an incredible springboard after college. And I think we're on our way there.
Well, I know that the efforts that I see and hear and talk to folks about, it's a lot is in place and a lot is being put in place, but historically it just hasn't been as strong as it could have been. Barton, we've got just a few more minutes, and I want to step back away from Magooga, and I want to talk a little bit about your friendship with Coach Lee, the NBA days, maybe even earlier. When did you guys first meet, and what was your impression of each other when you first started hanging out together?
Well, we met at Christ Church Episcopal down on West End Avenue, or I guess Broadway. We were probably 12 years old or something, 13 maybe. We just connected. We're very similar in a lot of ways. And we ultimately became really good friends through sort of middle school, junior high. Mm-hmm. And then I went to MBA as the 7th grader, and Clark showed up in 9th grade. And we were best friends in high school. I think the thing that's like so funny to me about Clark is, I don't know, like, I think if you were to go back, rewind 25, 30 years, however long it is now, 25 years, I guess, which of these guys is going to be the head coach of Vanderbilt football someday? Man, I tell you, you polled my buddies, it'd take a long time before you got to Clark. And that's not, we were just all kids, we were all idiots, but there was I say this a lot. I really think like his somewhere around his arrival at Vanderbilt is when a very distinct switch flipped, and this new, very determined, very like intellectually motivated, disciplined guy emerged, and he kind of left all of us in the dust. But I mean, he's I think that the things that people probably would maybe be surprised about Clark is that he's actually a pretty like he's a smart ass, like he can give it as good as he can take it.
Sure.
He has that professorial air about him in public. And he is, I think he has, like I said, I don't know if I would have said this in high school, but I certainly believe that now. I think he's one of the smartest people I know.
Maybe that change was a maturity that set in.
Yeah, I wish that maturity set in with me. I think it still hadn't set in for me, but either way, it's just, it's been, and then as we continued our friendship through adulthood, we would have conversations with our careers sort of intersecting, and I got to the point, my wife would always be pissed at me because I'd be on the phone for so long with Clark, because she's just like, man, you're just talking to your buddy, get off the phone and help me with the kids or the dishes or whatever it was. But what she didn't understand is, man, those phone calls, I was learning a lot, and that was, it may have been my my best friend, but just hearing his perspective on all the different twists and turns of his career was really insightful for me. And it's always, it's fun to be able to have a relationship like that for someone that you got a lot of respect for.
Well, we all know Coach's path into college. He baseball at Birmingham Southern, Belmont, and ultimately at Vanderbilt. But did you expect him to go the football route or the baseball route coming out of high school?
No, I didn't. Yeah, the path to football didn't necessarily surprise me. I mean, he was always, he was a tough, dependable, great teammate, who was a really good football player. And we had a good team now. I know there's some guys in this Facebook chat right now that had some good high school teams, but I'd put that 99 NBA team up against a lot of those. We're pretty proud of the squad we had that year, and Clark was a hell of a player, really good fullback and played nose, kind of fullback, tight end, and nose was his deal. And so he was a really good player, just a little undersized, and just was just going to have a hard time having a long-term career in football. But I think the passion for it never left him, and he sort of clawed his way back into this game, and thank goodness he did, because it certainly suits him.
Well, let me ask you along those lines. You're at one point, I don't know if you still are 6'3", playing defensive back, but do those physical attributes, when you guys are looking at recruits, either Coach Lee's undersized attributes for the positions he was playing at the time, or yours being taller at 6'3", playing defensive back, does any of that ever resonate with you guys in the recruiting trail?
Let me just set the record straight here.
Wait a minute. Did I just hit on a point here?
No, hold on. I just want to make it very clear. We do not want to recruit a bunch of Barton Simmons and Clark Lees to Vanderbilt football. That is going to be a recipe for failure. Yeah, I think I mean, ultimately, like, I would say my vision, and I think Clark's is similar. But really, I mean, I'll speak for myself here. I think the vision for what our player looks like at Vanderbilt is very data driven, meaning we're going to have a really clear understanding of what's been successful here. We're going to have a really clear understanding of what hasn't been successful here. We're going to take a lot of time and energy into studying that, and actually like spending time and making sure that doesn't pass us by and we're 5 years down the road and we haven't actually analyzed, what's worked and what hasn't. And we're going to let that guide us. That's a convoluted way of saying, ultimately, like, we want long and we want fast. There's not a whole lot of other ways to win in this league. Now, I think the way we find that and the way we develop that is going to be some of the areas where we have opportunity to win in the margins. And we feel good about the classes we brought into this point. These two classes we've actually recruited. The first class has been an absolute hit. And I'm sorry. And then the second class has been where most of those guys are going to get here in June, but we feel great about that one as well.
Well, I've got just two or three, and I'll get you out of here in just a minute, Barton. Thank you for your time so far. What excites you about this fall? What excites you about kicking off against Hawaii in late August?
I mean, it's just the next year. It's just the next, like, sort of step in this progression. I think you mentioned earlier, like, the 0-9 to the 2-10 to the 5-7. I mean, there's a clear progression line. And there's and I'm also aware, like I'm aware enough to know that we're not guaranteed to stay to sort of for that progression line to continue upward. I mean, who knows what awaits us in the fall, but what I do feel really confident in is that we have progressed as a team. We have progressed as a roster. This spring feels totally different than either the previous 2 springs. And that's both in terms of the players on the roster, but I think maybe even more importantly, it feels different as it relates to the culture in the building, the love of football, the guys that are around out there doing extra work, the guys in the weight room doing extra work, the guys that want to be around each other. It's different. I'm even talking to the players, when you sort of have them on the, on a one-off, they'll tell you, they'll volunteer it. Man, the locker room's different now. Everybody's positive, everybody's excited, everybody's confident, everybody wants like is passionate about what they're doing. So I mean, how can you not be excited to see what that manifests and what the next step in this thing is? I think our margins are still such that we can be a really good team. We can be a lot better football team than we were last year, and our record may not reflect that. So we know the margins are thin, and we know that nothing's guaranteed to us, but we certainly are not shying away from big goals, and we want big things for this team, not in the distant future. We want them this year, and we're going to have to do the little things between now and then to get there, though.
You've mentioned it several times about how razor thin the margins are from victory to defeat in the SEC, toughest conference in the country by far. Of course, we all know that. This 5-win team, to my observations, was within a couple of plays of being an 8-win team. And I know you guys know that much better than we do on the inside at McGugin. What is it about the mindset of the athlete in McGugin that keeps that confidence level high that you've got to have to be a successful athlete when they see that, when one play here, one penalty there makes all the difference?
Yeah. I think, again, I think when these guys see themselves getting better, that inspires confidence. I also think, preparation inspires confidence. And I think that there's, especially the guys that have been here, they're just, if they're still here, if a guy that was on that team 1 is still here for team 3, that guy's made a decision to opt into this culture that we built and that we're building. He's made that decision twice now. And so I think that selects a certain type of person. And I think that kid now is looking around and he's seeing people in the building that are like-minded. And so look, we do preach the little things, and this is a program that spends a lot of time on the little things, on the details and the minutia, on the disciplines, on the fundamentals, and on the mindset. And I think all these ways that we are able to show them the progression line and the improvement, I think has generated confidence throughout the building. And so, we're going to continue to have opportunity to showcase that, both during the off season and into the fall. And so, these guys feel it. Now we gotta manifest it. We gotta get it done.
To me, 2 prime examples of what you just said about players buying into the program, staying, 43 and 8. Both of those guys could have easily have left. Both have stayed and both have contributed. I'm so proud of both of those guys. Of course, DeRicky Wright and Ken Seals could be playing somewhere else in the SEC very easily, but they have bought into the program, and I'm so grateful for that. And I know you guys are. And I'm not asking you necessarily, that's just my commentary, but Barton, we do have a question from Kenny Cole. Kenny, in Robin Giltner and some others were at the spring scrimmage. And one of the things that really impressed them, and I promise you this is the last question, impressed them was discipline and how the team responded to Coach Lee. Can you share just a little bit about discipline and why it's so important and how it's developed within the program?
Well, again, I think that boils down to, it's really easy to let that slip. Like, it's just really easy. It's really easy to make concessions. It's really easy to, to give. That goes back to those soft spaces. I think one thing that Coach Lee's done a really, really incredible job of is eliminating those soft spaces. And I think the thing that's the reason it's so effective is because deep down, if these guys want to be great, which they all do, the guys that are here, they actually like that. I mean, they actually appreciate that. And so I think that just that consistency of approach, and I think there's an authenticity to it as well. One thing that is really valued in this program is, nothing is surface level. Nothing is rhetoric. Nothing is done without purpose. And if there's ever something that's done or a rule that's enacted or a judgment that's made or anything that a player doesn't understand or disagrees with, there's an open door policy to come understand why, because there's going to be a reason. And so when the staff is authentic, when we promote like authentic relationships, and when there's a purpose behind everything we do, that makes it a lot easier to build a disciplined roster and for them to buy into the discipline we're trying to build. And so again, that starts and stops with Coach Lee. I shouldn't say it stops with Coach Lee. It starts with Coach Lee, and it's then those banners are carried throughout the building, and I think the players feel that and buy into that and are energized by it.
Guys, if you can't get your momentum going and getting energized after listening to Barton for the last 45 minutes, then you won't. It's only May, but I'm ready for kickoff already.
Hey, you and me both, dude. You and me both. I'm ready. But we got some fun to go before we get there. I tell you, we got about a month now before our freshmen all show up, including our a couple older guys that are coming in. And man, you talk about getting me excited. I can't wait to see those guys arrive. And how about the three guys we had this year at the mid-year, Seti Alexander, Ethan Crisp, and Jalen Ruth. Those guys were, they hit the ground running, and I think it's, they further gave me confidence that not only are we bringing in the right traits and physical ability, but like these guys have the mindset, and I think that's a testament to the messages they meet when they interact with this building as recruits, and the authenticity that we try to present. This place ain't gonna be for everybody, and that's a good thing. And I think I'm excited about the new crop that's coming in, and the team 3 that's going to build through June and July.
We all know about those exclusive clubs where you've got a bouncer who stands outside and takes a look at those who want to get in, checks the ID, and you're wearing the right clothes. Well, I'm talking to the man right now who's building that exclusive club. Barton, I can't thank you enough, my friend, for sharing the vision, for sharing what's going on. You've got me fired up, and many, many former players, the football alums, and we just want to be part of it. And we're just so proud of what you guys are building. Well, I hope so. And I again, I really appreciate you offering this platform and continuing to do the good work of promoting it and building this community. And like you said earlier, open invitation. Any football alums out there that are part of this Vanderbilt football community, we'd love to see you. And come on by, say hello. This place is yours, this is your program. And we just want to make you proud. That's not lip service. He means it. Thank you, Barton. Y'all have a good rest of your week. Anchor down.